So today we are going to start the neurohypophyseal hormones. So first we will talk about the neurohypophysis. Neurohypophysis is also known as the posterior, commonly called as posterior pituitary gland, or the posterior pituitary portion of the posterior pituitary gland. So the posterior pituitary is derived from the forebrain during the embryonic development, or the neurohypophysis is developed by the invagination of the forebrain or the invagination of the neural ectoderm during the embryonic development. So neurohypophysis is formed by, or the neurohypophysis or the posterior pituitary is developed by the downward invagination of the neural ectoderm. So the neurohypophysis is mainly consists of or composed of the neural tissues. Neurohypophysis also contains a special kind of the cells which are known as pituitary-cytes, and pituitary-cytes are also called as the glial cells. Glial cells have no role in hormone secretion or the production of hormones. So neurohypophysis is located just below the hypothalamus. So, and then it forms a structural and a functional unit, and this structural and functional unit is also known as the neurohypophysis. So two important hormones which are actually released by the neurohypophysis, and such hormones are known as the arginine vasopressin, and the second is known as the oxytocin, or such hormones are also known as neurohormones. These two hormones are not produced by the neurohypophysis, are not produced by the posterior pituitary. So such hormones which are released by the neurohypophysis are synthesized by the two types of the nuclei which are present in hypothalamus. Are the neurohypophyseal hormones are produced by the hypothalamic nuclei. So such hypothalamic nuclei are of two types. One is known as the supraoptic nuclei, and the second is known as the paraventricular nuclei. As you can see here in the hypothalamus, the two important types of the nuclei are present in hypothalamus. One is known as the supraoptic nuclei, and the supraoptic nuclei are present just above the optic chiasm, and supraoptic nuclei consist of the two different type of the cell bodies, or the aggregations of the neuron, cell body neuron. One is known as the vasopressinergic neurons, or the cell bodies, and the other is known as oxytocic magnocellular neuron. So two type of the neurosecretory cells are present in the supraoptic nuclei. One is known as the vasopressinergic magnocellular neurons, and the second is known as the oxytocic, which means they are containing the oxytocin producing magnocellular neurons. So two types of the magnocellular neurosecretory cells are present in the supraoptic nuclei. So it means these cells are responsible for the production of the vasopressin and the oxytocin. Supraoptic nuclei, or the supraoptic nucleus, is primarily produced or form the oxytocin. Supraoptic nuclei primarily form the vasopressin or the ADH, while as the other kind of the nucleus, the nuclei which is present in the hypothalamus and responsible for the production of neurohypophyseal hormone, is known as the paraventricular nuclei. So the paraventricular nucleus is actually cell bodies are present in the hypothalamus, and then uh, its fibers or the axonal endings extends from the hypothalamus towards downwards towards the posterior half of the pituitary. As you can see here, that the cell bodies are present in the hypothalamic region, and its axonal endings extends from hypothalamus downwards to the posterior pituitary, or the neurohypophysis. So the paraventricular nuclei contains the discrete vasopressinergic and the oxytocic magnocellular neurons, and that are projecting to the posterior pituitary. So two types of the nuclei which are responsible for the production of the neurohypophyseal hormone. One is known as the supraoptic nuclei and second is known as the paraventricular nuclei. Both kind of nuclei are located in hypothalamus. So such nuclei are actually consist of the aggregations of the cell bodies and are also consist of the two type of the neurosecretory cells. One is known as the vasopressergic neurosecretory cells, and other are known as exototic neurosecretory cells or the magnocellular neurosecretory cells. So both oxytocin and the vasopressergic hormones are synthesized within the cell bodies in the hypothalamus, supraoptic nuclei and in paraventricular nuclei. Then after their synthesis, these two hormones are transported or travel from the along the pituitary stalk from the hypothalamus to the posterior half of the pituitary gland. And then later on, these two hormones are released from the posterior pituitary to the systemic circulation or the blood circulation surrounding the blood capillaries which are present surrounding the posterior pituitary gland. So there are two types of the neurohypophyseal hormone. One is known as the vasopressin and the second is known as the oxytocin. So the vasopressin is actually the principal endocrine regulator of the renal water excretion. So major function of the vasopressin is also known as, so vasopressin is a hormone which is also known as arginine vasopressin, and it's also known as antidiuretic hormone. So there are different names for the vasopressin hormone as the arginine vasopressin and also known as antidiuretic hormone. The main function of the vasopressin or the antidiuretic hormone is it regulates the renal water excretion, or it also plays certain other roles in the physiological functions. So one of them is to maintain the plasma volume and the plasma osmolality. So vasopressin plays some principal functions, in which one of them is to retain water within the body or the water retention through kidneys. Second is to maintain the plasma volume or also the plasma osmolality. Next is important hormone which is secreted by the neurohypophysis is known as oxytocin. Oxytocin is important in the parturition or at birth time and also in lactation. So next is about the chemistry of the neurohypophyseal, chemistry or the structure of the neurohypophyseal hormones. So first hormone, which is also known as the vasopressin or the antidiuretic hormone. This hormone is actually consists of 9 amino acids. So vasopressin is a 9 amino acid peptide. This peptide forms a disulfide bridge. As you can see here, this peptide, which is known as the vasopressin, forms a disulfide bridge. And this disulfide bridge is present between two adjacent cysteine residues, or the two adjacent cysteine amino acids. So these two cysteine residues or the amino acids are present at position number 1 and the position number 6. So cysteine in two adjacent cysteine residues at position number 1 and position number 6, a disulfide bridge is formed. So vasopressin is actually a 9 amino acid peptides having a disulfide bridge at position number 1 and position number 6. So in case of the most mammals, the amino acid arginine is present at position number 8. As you can see here in the structure, that the arginine amino acid is present at position number 8 in most of the mammals. But in case of the members of the mammals of pig family, the arginine amino acid is substituted by another kind of the amino acid, and that amino acid is known as a lysine. So in case of the members of the pig family, the arginine is replaced by the lysine amino acid. So in such organisms or in the mammals of the pig family, that hormone is also known as lysine vasopressin. So in case of the members of the pig family, the this hormone or a chemical messenger is also known as the lysine vasopressin. So other than the pig family members of the mammal, other than the pig family members, all other mammals, the chemical messenger is known as arginine vasopressin. So as in that case, the arginine is present at the position number 8. So that's why this chemical messenger or a neurohormone is known as the arginine vasopressin. So next is about the structure of the other neurohypophyseal hormone, and this neurohypophyseal hormone is known as oxytocin. So the oxytocin differs from that of the vasopressin only by the two amino acids. So both vasopressin and the vasopressin and the oxytocin have the same kind of structures. So the only difference is that the oxytocin differs from the vasopressin only by only two amino acids. So oxytocin जो है ये vary करता है in structure to the vasopressin just in two amino acids, presence of the two amino acids. So these two amino acids is the isoleucine for the phenylalanine at the position number 3. So as you can see here, that the phenylalanine in the vasopressin is replaced by, in case of the oxytocin, is replaced by the isoleucine. So one change in the oxytocin is the presence of isoleucine at position number 3, and in case of the vasopressin, that is phenylalanine. Second is a change in the position number 8. So in the position number 8, that in case of the oxytocin, the another amino acid which is known as leucine is present at position number 8. But in case of the vasopressin, the amino acid is known as arginine is present. So that's why ADH is also known as the arginine vasopressin, or also known as a vasopressin. Okay? So in case of the oxytocin, the hormone, the amino acid is present at the position number 8 is known as leucine. So in case of oxytocin, there is a change of the two amino acid. One is at the position number 3, and at position number 3, the presence of the isoleucine as compared to the phenylalanine. And in case of position number 8, the arginine is replaced by the leucine at position number 8. So that is the difference between the structure of the vasopressin and the oxytocin. So these two hormones, which are actually synthesized in the supraoptic and the paraventricular nuclei, then these two hormones are stored in the secretory granules within the terminals of the magnocellular neurons in the posterior pituitary. Then finally, when they are synthesized in the cell bodies, or when they are synthesized in the supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei, then their axons are extending downwards toward the posterior pituitary. Here they are stored in the at their terminals. So these hormones are stored in the form of the secretory granules within the terminals of the magnocellular neurons. So as both of these hormones are produced by the magnocellular neurons, so their storage is in their terminal endings of the magnocellular neurons in the posterior pituitary. So these are stored in the posterior pituitary gland, and here they are stored in the terminals of the magnocellular neuron in the form of secretory granules. So increased firing frequency of the vasopressinergic and the oxytocin neurons opens the voltage gated calcium channels in these nerve terminals. So when there is an elevated rate of the production of the vasopressin and oxytocin from the hypothalamus, then in resulting the calcium channels are opened. So in result of the open voltage gate, in result of the open calcium channels, then it causes the exocytosis of the such secretory granules. So when the voltage gate in calcium channels are open, then in resulting it leads to the transient calcium channel influx. Then it's so when calcium channels are open, then it's resulting cause an influx of calcium channels. So this influx of calcium channels causes the fusion of neurosecretory granules, or also caused as the exocytosis of the neurosecretory granules. So in simple, you can say that when more and more vasopressinergic or the oxytocin hormones are produced from the hypothalamus, so in result of the elevated frequency of such hormones, so calcium channels are the open, voltage gated calcium channels are opened. So in result of such opening of such channels, it causes the influx of the calcium ion. So this influx of calcium ions eventually causes the exocytosis of the neurosecretory granules. So this fusion of the neurosecretory granules with the nerve terminal membranes is actually causes the release of the hormones, release of such hormones, and also the NP is known as neurophysin. What is neurophysin? Neurophysin are actually the carrier proteins. These carrier proteins are also formed along with the oxytocin and the vasopressinergic neurons within the supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei. So both nuclei also produces the neurohormones as well as the carrier proteins, which are known as the neurophysin. So neurophysin are actually the carrier proteins. So both carrier proteins, which are known as the neurophysin, and the vasopressin and the oxytocins are now released from the posterior pituitary to the systemic circulation in the equimolar quantities, RN and equimolar ratios. So ये जो दोनों hormones हैं and along with the carrier proteins, they are now released from the posterior pituitary gland to the surrounding systemic circulation. So neurophysin just act as a carrier proteins for the vasopressin and the oxytocin during the axonal migration from the hypothalamus to the posterior pituitary gland. So they don't have any other role. So the neurophysin have just a particular role as an carrier proteins for both the vasopressinergic, for both the vasopressin hormone as well as the oxytocin hormone during axonal migration, and appears to serve no other function. Next is about the vasopressin receptors. So there are different type of the receptors which are present on the target cells and the target sites. So there are three main type of the vasopressin receptors, and these three types are as V1A, V1B, and V2. There are three types of the vasopressin receptors: V1A, V1B, and the V2. There are three kind of the vasopressin receptors. So both V1A and the V1B are the receptors that are actually X through their mode of action are the X through the phosphatidylinositol hydrolysis, and they increase the intracellular calcium concentration. All three receptors of the vasopressin are known as a G protein receptors. So when we are talking to about the action of the vasopressin hormone, so for their action they have receptors of the three different kinds as V1A, V1B, and the V2. All three receptors are actually the G protein receptors are known as a G protein coupled. So such receptors are a G protein coupled receptors. So as the V1A, so V1A receptors are present at the surface of the vascular smooth muscles along with the blood vessels, and they are also present at the surface of the muscles, and such receptors are also present at the liver, platelets, and along the central nervous system. These are the sites where the V1A receptors are present. And then the V1B receptors. V1B receptors are present at the surface of the pituitary corticotrophs. So as both the oxytocin and the vasopressins are protein in nature and both are peptide hormones, so they are known as the neuropeptides. So their receptors must be present at plasma membrane. So V1A receptors are present on the surface of the vascular smooth muscles and on the surface of the liver and on the platelet cells. And also the central nervous system cells also have the receptors for, also have V1A receptors. Then the V1B receptors. V1B receptors are present in the plasma membranes of the pituitary corticotrophs. So both V1A and the V1B receptors, they act through the hydrolysis of the phosphatidyl inositol. So then in result of the hydrolysis of the phosphatidyl inositol, a second chemical messenger is produced as IP3, a second chemical messenger. So then the IP3 involves in the discharge and the release of the intracellular calcium ions. So both V1A and the V1B acts through the phosphatidyl inositol hydrolysis and eventually cause an increase of the intracellular calcium concentration. Next receptor, which is known as the V2 receptor. This V2 receptor is known as the basolateral, is present on the basolateral membrane of the distal nephrons. So the site for the presence of the V2 receptors, so the distal nephrons at the basolateral membrane of the distal nephrons bears the V2 receptors. So V2 receptors is actually also acts through the stimulatory G proteins. So they actually increase the cyclic AMP levels. So V2 receptors actually also a kind of receptor which are known as G protein coupled receptors. So such receptors are also stimulatory in their action. Such G proteins are stimulatory in action, and these G proteins are the G protein coupled receptors activates or increase the cyclic AMP levels. So here in case of the V2 receptors, the second chemical messenger is the cyclic AMP. In case of the V1A receptors and the action of the V1B receptor, the second chemical messenger is not cyclic AMP. So here the IP3 acts as a cyclic chemical messenger, calcium ions act as a cyclic chemical messenger. But in case of the V2 receptors, they act through cyclic AMP as a second chemical messenger. Then so their physiological effects, as in case of the V1A receptors, they cause the smooth muscle contraction. They also stimulate the glycogenolysis. They also enhance the platelet adhesion, and also the neurotransmitter and the neuromodulatory functions. V1B receptors, physiological functions of the V1B receptors is to enhance the ACTH release when vasopressin hormones bind to the pituitary corticotrophs or the V1B receptors, then in resulting they cause the enhanced or the elevated level of the ACTH release from the pituitary corticotrophs. Then is about the another kind, when the V2 receptors, when vasopressin binds to the V2 receptors, then a physiological effect is to increase the synthesis and the assembly of the aquaporins. Aquaporins are actually special kind of the water permeable channels which are present in the nephron, in the particular cells of the particular kidney, or the cells of the particular cells of the nephrons, which are known as, they bear a special kind of water channels which are known as aquaporins. So by the stimulation of the V2 receptors, then it eventually causes the increase in the synthesis and the assembly of the aquaporin channels. So next is about the physiology of the physiology of the neurohormones, or the physiology of the pituitary hormones. So first we will discuss about the physiology of the vasopressin, or the antidiuretic hormone. So as the ADH, or the vasopressin, is primarily formed by or synthesized by the supraoptic nuclei, the main function of the ADHs, or the vasopressin, is to cause the decreased excretion of water by the kidneys, and the phenomena is also known as antidiuresis. So the main function of the ADH or the vasopressin is to decrease the secretion of water or the water retention by the kidneys. And this phenomenon is also known as antidiuresis. Second function of the ADH is the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. So the second function is actually also known as the vasoconstrictor or the pressure effect of the ADH. So first we will talk about the its function, which is known as the retention of the water by the kidneys. So this is the principal function of the ADH. So ADH during this function, the retention of water is actually by acting when the ADH acts on the distal tubules and the collecting ducts of the kidneys. So water retention is actually managed by or maintained by the kidneys when the ADH acts on the distal tubule and the collecting duct cells of the kidneys. So ADH acts on the collecting tubule and the distal tubule cells of the kidney. So in resulting, it increases the permeability of the collecting ducts of the kidney, and this permeability is increases when the ADH forms the certain kind of the water channels which are known as aquaporin channels. So by the formation of the aquaporin channels, which are known as the aquaporin V2 channels. So by the formation of the aquaporin V2 channels, it actually increases the permeability of the collecting ducts of the kidneys. So this overall effect is responsible for the retention of water in excess of solute, and consequently the effective osmotic pressure of the body fluid is decreased. So that is a major physiological effect of the vasopressin or the ADH or the antidiuretic hormone. So it's known as, so when the neurohormone, which is known as the ADH, acts on the kidney cells, at that time it's known as the antidiuretic hormone. When it acts on the surface of the blood vessels, at that time this hormone is known as the vasopressin hormone. So the second function is the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels. So when the blood volume decreases, so at that time the this vasopressin hormone secretions from the hypothalamus increases. So when the blood volume decreases, so at that time the secretions of the vasopressin from the hypothalamus increases. So it produces the vasoconstriction in the arterioles of the body. So that this leads to the increase in the total peripheral resistance and the blood pressure. So when vasopressin released from the hypothalamus and then the posterior pituitary, then it acts on the then it actually eventually causes the vasoconstriction of the arterioles. So their target sites are the arterioles where they cause the vasoconstriction. This vasoconstriction eventually elevates the blood pressure. So vasopressin or the ADH performs the two major roles. One is known as the retention of the water through kidneys or by kidneys, that is known as antidiuresis, and second is known as the vasoconstriction of the blood vessels, or also known as the vasoconstrictor or a pressure effect of the antidiuretic hormone. So what are the aquaporins? Aquaporins are actually the large number of special kind of vesicle which lies inside the cell membranes that have highly water permeable pores. So such kind of the vesicles have highly water permeable pores. So when ADH acts on the cell, so it first combines with the membrane receptors, and these receptors are the V2 receptors. So that receptor acts through their receptors actually activate the adenyl cyclase enzyme, and this enzyme causes the formation of a second chemical messenger, and this chemical messenger is known as cyclic AMP. So by the action of the ADH on the target cell, through the V2 receptors that eventually activates the adenyl cyclase enzyme, and this enzyme causes the formation of the cyclic AMP. So this cyclic AMP causes the phosphorylation of the certain elements within the special vesicle, which are known as the aquaporins. So these cyclic AMP causes the phosphorylation of the certain proteins within the aquaporins, the special vesicles. So in resulting these vesicles, by the activation of the such proteins within aquaporins, so then these aquaporins or the vesicles now insert into the apical cell membranes. By the activation of such vesicles or the aquaporins, now these upon their activation, now these vesicles insert into the apical cell membranes. So thus providing the many areas of the high water permeability. So such channels are the such aquaporins are the vesicles now provides the areas, many areas of the high water permeability. So all this occurs within just 5 to 10 minutes of the binding of the ADH to the target cell or the V2 receptors. So after 5 to 10 minutes, now the aquaporin channels are formed or developed within the plasma membrane of the collecting tubules or the collecting tubules of the kidney. So water is then absorbed from the collecting tubules and the ducts by the phenomena or the process of the osmosis. So next is about the regulation of the antidiuretic hormone. So this hormone is regulated by the two ways. One is when the increased extracellular fluid or the osmolarity, and the second is the low blood volume. So the two ways for the regulation of the antidiuretic hormone. One is when the increased extracellular fluid or the osmolarity. So this increased extracellular fluid or the osmolarity stimulates the antidiuretic hormone secretion. Second is the low blood volume or the low blood pressure also stimulates the ADH secretion, and this causes the vasoconstrictor effect of the ADH. So first we will talk about the first role of the ADH, and that is the role of the extracellular fluid osmolarity. So when the extracellular, so there are modified neuron receptors which are present on the surface of the cells, and such kind of receptors are known as osmoreceptors. So this kind of the regulation, which is now related to the extracellular fluid osmolarity, is also known as the osmotic regulation of ADH production. It's also known as the osmotic regulation of the ADH production. So in osmotic regulation of the ADH production, when the extracellular fluids becomes too much concentrated, so this fluid is pulled by the osmosis out of the osmoreceptor cells, and then decreasing its size and initiating the appropriate nerve signals in the hypothalamus, and eventually cause the hypothalamus to cause the additional ADH secretion. So when the extracellular fluid become too much concentrated, so at that time, so as you can already know about the phenomena of the hypertonic and the hypotonic environment. So when outside the cell is the condition is the hypotonic, so at that time, so when extracellular fluid is too much concentrated, so outside the cell is hypotonic environment. So at that time, fluid is pulled by the process of osmosis out of the osmoreceptor cells. So जो fluid है वो in result of जब outside the cell concentration जो है वो ज़्यादा concentrated होगी, तो obviously जो through the phenomena of osmosis, according to the concentration gradient, fluid जो है वो from the higher concentration to the lower concentration जो है वो move करेगा outside the cell. Then that causes the decrease in cell size. So when fluid moves from the cell to the external environment, then it causes the decrease in cell size. So this decrease in cell size initiate and nerve signals and this nerve signals then activates hypothalamus to generate or to produce the additional ADH secretion. So the osmoreceptors are located in the organum vasculosum. So organum vasculosum is a highly vascular structure in the anteroventral wall of the third ventricle. Or the osmoreceptors are present in the certain kind of the hypothalamic cells. So certain hypothalamic cells bear the osmoreceptors. Such osmoreceptors actually also detect the fluid concentration in the extracellular fluid. So regardless of the mechanism, the concentrated body fluids also stimulates the supraoptic nuclei, whereas the dilute body fluid inhibit the secretion of the supraoptic nuclei. As the vasopressin or the ADH is primarily found by or synthesized by the supraoptic nuclei. So when the when the extracellular fluid hai, when it's much or too much concentrated, so at that time it stimulates the supraoptic nuclei for production of the more ADH. So whereas the diluted body fluids inhibit the secretion of supraoptic nuclei or they inhibit the secretion of ADH. So next is the role of the low blood pressure volume. Second is in the regulation of the ADHs, the role of the low blood pressure or the low blood pressure and the volume to regulate the secretion of the ADH. So low blood pressure and the low blood volume stimulate the ADH secretion, are also known as the vasoconstrictor effect of the ADH. This kind of regulation is also known as the non-osmotic kind of regulation. This non-osmotic regulation is actually provided by the low blood volume that directly causes the increased release of the ADH. So the low blood volume or the low blood pressure directly causes the increased release of the ADH from the hypothalamus. This causes the vasoconstriction in arterioles of the body and also increases the arterial blood pressure. So what happens during the non-osmotic regulation? So during the non-osmotic regulation, that actually ADH causes the vasopressin causes the vasoconstriction in the arterioles of the body and eventually increases the arterial blood pressure. So the higher concentration of the ADH having the potent effect of the constricting the arterioles throughout the body and therefore increasing the arterial pressure. For this reason, this hormone is also known as vasopressin. So one of the stimuli for causing the instance ADH secretion is the decreased blood volume, and so when the blood volume decreased 15 to 25 times, so at that or more, then at that time the secretory rate also rises up to 50% than the normal. So the secretory rate of the ADH increases or rises up to 50 times than the normal. So that is a potent stimulus, or that the low blood pressure or volume is the potent stimulus for the discharge of the or the production of the ADH from the hypothalamus or the posterior pituitary. So the whole mechanism is as follows: that the atria have the stretch receptors. These receptors are also known as baroreceptors. So the atria have stretch receptors, which are also known as baroreceptors, that are excited by overfilling. So such receptors are excited when by the overfilling. So when the atria or overfilled, so at that time these receptors are present on the atrial walls, and these receptors are known as also known as the baroreceptors. So such receptor actually detect the pressure. So these receptors are excited when by the overfilling. When excited, they send signals to the brain, and in response to these signals, brain inhibit the production or the secretion of the ADH. And in opposite side, or conversely, when these receptors are unexcited, so as a result of the underfilling, the opposite physiological effects occurs, and in this case, with greatly increased ADH secretion.
Ma'am?
Yes.
मैम नेक्स्ट हमारी कौन सी क्लास है और क्विज है हमारा?
Just 1 or 2 minutes. So, okay.
ओके।
I will end this class in within 1 or 2 minutes. So conversely, when the receptors are unexcited as a result of the underfilling, then there is an opposite effect. So this causes an increase in the ADH secretion. So decreased stretch of the baroreceptors of the carotid, aortic, and the other pulmonary region also stimulates the ADH secretion. So next is about the another neurohypophyseal hormone, which is known as oxytocin. So oxytocin performs the two major roles. One is known as the uterine contraction, or the contraction of uterus at the end of the gestation period. So it is believed that this hormone is partially responsible for causing the birth of the baby or the process of the parturition. This is supported by the following facts, and one is known as when in an hypophysiectomized animal. Hypophysiectomized animal is those animals in which the hypothalamus is actually removed, or the posterior pituitary or the hypothalamus is removed. So in vitro conditions, so such animals are known as the hypophysiectomized animals. So in hypophysiectomized animals where the hypothalamus is removed experimentally, in such animals the duration of the labor is prolonged, so that indicating that the possible effect of the oxytocin during the delivery or the parturition. Next is the amount of oxytocin in the plasma increases during the labor, especially during the last stage. So stimulation of the cervix in pregnant animals also elicits and stimulates or begins the nervous signals that passes to the hypothalamus and then causes the secretion of the oxytocin. And another role of the oxytocin is the milk ejection. So oxytocin plays a very important role in milk ejection from the mammary glands. So suckling is actually a stimulus that actually stimulates the sensory nerves, and these sensory nerves give message to give message to the hypothalamus. The neurons of the in the hypothalamus uh, supraoptic and the paraventricular nuclei produces oxytocin, and then posterior pituitary gland releases the oxytocin hormone. This oxytocin hormone eventually causes the effects on the mammary glands, then resulting causes the milk flow, and the phenomena is also known as the milk letdown or milk ejection. Oxytocin is also known, also performs certain other hormone, other roles, physiological roles in the animals. This hormone is also known as the love hormone. So this hormone also performs or plays. This hormone is also responsible for certain other physiological roles, such as social behaviors in animals or the reproductive behaviors. So this hormone is other than these two important major physiological functions. Oxytocin plays some other physiological roles as in social behaviors and as in reproductive behavior in animals. Okay, that's all for today.